at 6 o'clock p.m. Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Commissioner Cavero.
Please stand. Right hand over your heart. Please begin.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Could we have roll call, please?
Vice Chairman Smith,
Present.
Commissioner Al-Shanable,
Present.
Commissioner Carey,
Present.
Commissioner Ortiz,
Present.
Commissioner Caraveo.
Present.
Oral communications. Please note the rules for meeting decorum on the screen. In the interest of time, these will not be read, but be advised that the Planning Commission will adhere to these standards. This is a time for the public to address the Planning Commission and the Airport Zoning Commission for items not on the agenda. Please note that if an item is scheduled as a public hearing, you will have an additional opportunity to speak when the public hearing is opened or continued. Comments made now regarding items scheduled for a public hearing will not be included in the official record of public testimony for that item. If anyone would like to address the commission on items that are not on the agenda, please come up to the podium. Please address your comments to the commission as a body and not to individual commissioners directly. Only very brief responses may be given to questions asked on topics not on the agenda. Please keep your remarks to 3 minutes. Anyone like to step up? Okay, I have some speaker cards. Let me see. They're all, looks like they're all for the Islamic Center. Do you want to just hold them until we have that issue, please? Okay.
Excuse me, Vice Chair Smith. It's not on the agenda. It was on the last agenda, but we need to elect or appoint a chair.
Okay.
We were going to do it last time, but we had a few folks who weren't here unexpectedly. So why don't we go ahead, if that's okay?
That's fine.
I'll nominate Mr. Smith.
A second.
For chairperson.
A second.
Second. Okay. Call for the vote.
Okay, so we have a first and a second nominating Vice Chair Smith to be Chair of the Planning Commission. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Yeah.
Passes unanimously. What's going on with these? All right, so congratulations, Chairman Carey. Very nice. Yes, we can clap.
And Chairman
Chairman.
Smith.
Oh, okay.
Old habit from a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Chair Smith. So we don't have, I don't know where the little title block is, but we'll fix that next time.
Okay.
And then, so then since you are no longer the vice chair, now we need to nominate and vote in a vice chair.
I would like to nominate Rula.
I'll second the nomination, Rula.
Thank you.
All right, so we have a first a motion and a second to nominate Commissioner Al-Shanable as the vice chair of the Planning Commission. Go ahead and can I call for a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Nobody, of course.
Thank you.
Great, congratulations.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
We are officially reorganized. Perfect.
Okay. Thank you.
Painless.
Okay, now we'll have the Planning Commission and Airport Zoning Commission consent calendar.
Oh, there are no items.
Okay, and we'll now recess the Airport Zoning Commission. Planning Commission consent calendar. Consideration of Planning Commission and Airport Zoning Commission minutes for the regular meeting of March the 6th, 2018. Any comments on the commissioners? Can we have a motion?
I wasn't here.
Oh, okay.
Here either.
For the minutes, you said? One item, question I have on the minutes. We left it at the square footage was going to be reduced, but there was no specific reduction or square footage on the minutes. Is that something that should be on there, or is it just going to be left to administration?
We have a draft condition of approval that we can share. Since we didn't know what the square footage was in the meeting, it wouldn't be identified.
Okay.
But when we finalize, before the resolution's signed, we can share that with you so you know what the square footage is.
I'll second the motion, or?
Okay, I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll make the motion, sorry.
Yeah, I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the minutes. All in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
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 And so 3 yes and 2 abstentions.
Abstains.
Right. Okay, continued public hearings. Zone text amendment 2019 ZA01. That's a continued public hearing, and that's a residential sign ordinance revision. We have a staff report, please.
Yes. Thank you, Commissioners. My name is Chris Palmer, Senior Planner with the City of Hawthorne's Planning Department. And Zone Text Amendment 2019 ZA01 is a request for recommendation to the City Council of approval of the residential sign ordinance. So some background. So we're all familiar with garden gnomes and what those look like. And we also pretty much don't have a problem if one of our neighbors had a garden gnome in their front yard. But what if they had a cow in their front yard? Or how about 20 cows? Is that an issue? And what about a sign that said no soliciting? This is probably not a problem. But what if it said no soliciting, no strangers, we know who Jesus is, please go away, and we don't have any money to buy anything, and that sign was about 5 feet tall? So the purpose of this residential ordinance is to protect and not infringe upon the First Amendment right of free speech, which is a constitutional right, while simultaneously giving our code enforcement officers the ability to enforce the municipal code without exposing the city to liability. So, for example, this language here is probably fine. It just warns anyone that buys a house they might want to be aware of the HOA targeting them. But look at the apparatus it's attached to. It's pretty large. This is fine. Here's a gnome, and he has a small sign that says he's not in favor of gardening oppression. It's kind of harmless, right? But what about these guys? Statues, about 5 feet tall statues, 4 of them. So some of the highlights in the municipal code that we're looking to seek approval for you to to recommend approval to the City Council has to do with the definition section. We're creating and introducing holiday decorations to the municipal code to distinguish them from commercial advertising and free speech. Section 17-2030, we're going to clarify accessory structures that are permitted within residential zones and their heights. Section 1735, we're going to add language that addresses the applicability, adds depth to the purpose and intent section, and spells out our standards and introduces a new violation policy. Section 1735-30 distinguishes governmental signs, addresses security signs, and discusses temporary non-commercial signs. And lastly, Section 1735-130 describes personal expression and gives more information regarding sign face and number of signs. So here's a pop quiz. This is the municipal code prior to the request that we're asking for. What is it that's enforceable here? So this is the reason why we're addressing the applicability of our sign to add standards to help our enforcement our code enforcement officers be able to enforce it. So I'm going to give you an example. After the code is changed we'll be able to implement the sign ordinance, and then we'll be able to enforce it. So then code enforcement will be able to drive down the street and see this and know that maybe these two signs are okay. They're about 3 feet tall. They have signage that express freedom of speech. But then these signs here, they wouldn't be applicable. The small sign that you see here, it's too close to the curb. These are pole signs, and these are mannequin structures that are higher than 3 feet tall. So how about this one? Without this ordinance, this is in effect currently. Once the ordinance is applied, we'll see that this sign is okay, but then these will not be permitted. So just kind of bring it home, we're just fortifying our residential sign ordinance to protect the city and to give our code enforcement officers the ability to distinguish what's permitted and what's not permitted based on constitutional rights. This concludes staff report. We're available if you have any questions.
Okay, does the Planning Commission have any questions for staff? This is a time for questions of staff only.
I do. So, I mean, I can see this is a pretty complicated topic. First thing that I think about when I see signs like that is freedom of religion. And could some signs similar to this be construed as infringing on religious right and be present a problem to the city?
No, because the difference in these signs, so you see the sign here. Can you see the screen over there?
Oh, yes.
This sign is permissible, and that's like a Bible verse.
Okay.
But this sign here, that's affixed to the roof line of the house. You can't attach a structure to the roof line of the house, and it's too big. It's beyond 3 square feet. Okay. So that's what this is designed to do, to distinguish those characteristics.
Got it. That helps. Thanks.
And I think one thing that we'll probably see with this type of situation is it's often common for a homeowner to ask about their options and what are the opportunities to modify or move different signs. So, it's sort of moving different pieces of the puzzle to see where it would fit. So certain signs may not be allowed because of height, but if they reduce it in height, then it would be in compliance. Other signs might be attached to the house where if they're moved and they're made of a certain size, then those would be allowed. Sometimes it'll be the location within the front setback or distance to the sidewalk that makes a sign unacceptable, as opposed to the content of the sign. We've been working on this actually since before I came on board to really take a balanced approach to how do we look at amending the code in a way that protects the individual freedoms of expression and speech while balancing the overall character of the community, and how do we preserve that, and then also give us as staff the ability to confidently, reasonably, and lawfully enforce those particular portions of the code that we need to, like leaving your lights up for all year round, that kind of thing. Where's that balance? So.
Okay.
And in addition, the signs that you see here that are fixed to poles, the sign face may be fine, but it's affixed to a pole. Pole signs are not allowed in the residential zones. And one thing I want to point out, for example, here, these are examples of Halloween decorations. Now, our municipal code, that the draft that you have before you doesn't have the 45-day limitation. If you recommend approval to the city council, staff recommends that you add a 45-day limitation to all holiday decorations, and that'll be within the definitions portion of what holiday decorations are.
That's 45 days either side of the holiday, or?
So if you put up Halloween signs on October 31st, then you have take them down within 45 days. Okay. So 45 days total. So when they go up to when they come down, a total of 45 days.
It's easy for me. I get them up the day before and they're gone the next day.
One other question. As an example, what about campaign signs? I think there's a limitation on square footage, right? For the
Yes.
now, typical campaign sign is maybe 2 feet by 3 feet. Is that about right?
It's about right.
Okay. So that'd be 6 square feet, right? So do the limitations allow for 1, 2, 3 of those signs on a person's lawn? Would that be under permitted signs?
I'm reading that right now to verify for you. Right now, you don't need a permit for political signs. But in residential zones, no sign face shall exceed 3 square feet per sign area.
Is that
And you're
so?
limited to 4 signs.
So that's not for political signs.
That would be in all residential zones.
Okay.
So we're not restricting the speech of the political sign, just the size.
So repeat that again. So it's how many signs, or
No more than 4.
no more than 4? But the limiting factor would be the square footage
3 square feet.
per sign, or
Per sign.
Yes.
so.
If you look at the draft ordinance on 4 of 8, page 4 of 8, 2A,
Yeah.
protected non-commercial speech temporary signs. That's sort of the meat and potatoes of how we're handling the political signs. And the reality is that in the field during an election season, typically the enforcement is more focused on public property as opposed to private property. So if you have 5 signs promoting your 5 different regional or area election candidates, it's unlikely that the code enforcement would focus on that as an enforcement activity. However, if you put them in the public right-of-way in front of your house, that parkway, all of those would be removed because they're on the public right-of-way. So that's usually more the focus.
Isn't there also a limitation on how long of a period of time after the election that those signs can be up?
Yes, that's already in the code, and we're not touching that language. We're not. This is not affecting that.
For the 45 days, I find it might be hard to regulate depending on when somebody puts up the sign, to know when that 45 days should start. What about if we put up like 30 days before the holiday, it can be up, and then also 15 days after the holiday?
What I didn't want to do was be inconsiderate of people that don't actually celebrate holidays. So it's really kind of a seasonal type thing. So if you decide to put up something for Easter, Easter is not really a season. It's it may be a day. It may be something that you put up decorations for or not. So I didn't want to get into giving something credit for being a holiday that everybody doesn't necessarily consider a holiday. So in the fall, maybe somebody will put up a pumpkin, but it's not necessarily for Halloween. Maybe around Thanksgiving, they'll put up some decorations because it's a season. So it's kind of a similar thing in nature. So basically, it's to avoid becoming a nuisance. So if the neighbors will probably let us know when they put it up, we'll go ahead and we'll enforce. We'll give them a 5-day warning saying, hey, how long has it been up? Can you take this down? This is how much time you have. So basically, it's just a limitation that's placed on there. And so once we get the notice, we'll have an idea of when that season is, and we'll talk to them to engage to see when they put it up and give them time to take it down.
Okay. And then for the other signage, does it require a permit for planning?
every sign requires a permit except the signs that are excluded from requiring permits, and that's in the section. That's in this the draft also. The signs that do not require a permit. So, for example, real estate signs, political signs, temporary signs authorized for community events, those don't require permits.
And in this document, they're referred to as permitted signs.
In this document, it's referred to as Section 173530, sign permit not required.
Okay.
Okay.
In the context of the changes to what's applicable to the residential zones, most of those structures wouldn't need any permit. We'd be looking at temporary signs, holiday displays, sort of your, things you would poke in the grass and have them display for a certain period of time. It would be unusual for any of those to need a permit, but most often they wouldn't. And a lot of this, it's actually driven from a, sort of a very extreme and outlier enforcement issue, and it would be you'll get a handful of those over a decade, but we won't see that regularly. So most folks will take down their lights or switch out their holiday decorations depending on or their seasonal decorations, and they might need a little prodding here and there, like my neighbor down the street. Their Christmas lights have blown up from the fascia up onto kind of like going like a snake up towards the ridge of the roof because we've had all this rain and kind of weird wind. So everything else is taken care of in their house. So this, would be like, hey, can you fix that? And they'll probably take it down. So really, that's probably a lot more of what we will see from an enforcement standpoint. So.
Okay. Any other questions from the staff?
Yes, sir.
This is a city initiated, so we don't have an applicant, right?
Yes, the city's the applicant.
Okay. Is there anyone who wishes to address the commission on this issue? If you are, step up to the podium. Okay, seeing no one. Mr. Ramirez, are there any documents to place into the administrative record, such as late communications?
No, they're not.
Do any of my fellow commissioners have any final comments on this item or questions from staff?
I do, sir. I mean, I do like the fact that we're still protecting the freedom of speech and the freedom of religion, but I do think that it's necessary because, I mean, aesthetically, we do want to make Hawthorne the best that it can be, and I don't see this happening if we don't have this enforcement. So I'm personally for it. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. I now formally close the public hearing on this item and call on my fellow commissioners for a vote on the item.
Do we need a motion to approve?
Yes, may I have a motion to approve?
To approve text amendment 2019 Zulu Alpha 01.
I'll second that, and should we
Include the
include the
recommendation.
45-day limitation?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Will the secretary please call for the vote?
Chairperson Smith,
Yes.
Vice Chairperson El-Shanabli,
Yes.
Commissioner Carey,
Yes.
Commissioner Caraveo,
Yes.
and Commissioner Ortiz. The motion passes with 5 yes votes.
Okay. We will now move on to conditional use permit number 2019 CU03. So now's the time and place to open the public hearing to consider it. 2019 CU03. Senior Planner Chris Palmer will present a staff report.
Thank you, Commissioners. Conditional use permit 2019 CU03 is a request for Chinese friends on the southeast corner of Rosecrans Avenue and Ocean Gate. They're requesting a Type 41 beer and wine license. A Type 41 beer and wine license is a beer and wine license in association with a bona fide eating place. This is elevation of where they're located. They're located in the Ocean Gate Business Park. They're right next to Starbucks and Verizon and across from Subway and Pollo Loco. To show that they're a bona fide eating place, this is directly from their menu. These are the items that these are a few of the items that they offer for sale during the lunch hours. They provide us with a floor plan. The floor plan demonstrates that they have a 34-seat capacity in the dining area. It's about 570 square feet or so, and this is a picture of what the interior looks like. The proposed beer and wine license is located within an existing restaurant. The restaurant has adequate parking, landscaping, and access, and the restaurant is a part of a larger development called Ocean Gate. So it's in compliance with the Hawthorne Municipal Code. Some of the particulars: it is categorically exempt from CEQA because it's an existing facility. Noticing was done for this property. Property owners were notified within a 300-foot radius. Staff recommends adoption of PC Resolution 2019-04, approving conditional use permit 2019 CU03 for a Type 41 beer and wine license for an existing restaurant. This concludes staff report. I'm available for any questions.
Does the Planning Commission have any questions for the staff? This is time for questions of staff only. Nothing. Is the applicant present, and do you wish to speak?
The applicant is here.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kevin Franklin. I'm a retired ABC liquor license investigator. I'm representing the client. He's not here now, or she's not here now. I can entertain any questions. Again, I want to add that they're not adding any live entertainment, no dancing. They have 11 p.m. closing hours, relatively quiet operation. And I'm here to answer any questions.
Quick question.
Sure.
It's just beer and wine, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So is there anyone who wishes to address the commission on this issue? Thank you very much.
One thing, the name on it is Cynthia Rodriguez instead of Carlos.
Okay.
All right, they're business partners, but the one partner wants to wait.
Duly noted.
Okay. Seeing no one that would like to speak to the commission on this issue, Mr. Ramirez, are there any documents to place into the administrative record?
No, they're not.
Okay. Do any of my fellow commissioners have any final comments on this item or questions from staff? Okay. I now formally close the public hearing on this item. Call on my fellow commissioners for a vote on this item. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve conditional use permit 2019 CU03.
Is there a second?
Second that motion?
Will the secretary please call for the vote?
Chairperson Smith,
Yes.
Vice Chair Alshanable,
Yes.
Commissioner Carey,
Yes.
Commissioner Caraveo,
Yes.
and Commissioner Ortiz.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Now we'll have conditional use permit number 2018 CU06. Now is the time and place to open the public hearing to consider conditional use permit number 2018 CU06. Chris Palmer will present a staff report.
May, I'm going to have to.
Oh,
Okay.
yes, ma'am.
I would like to announce that I've decided to recuse myself from item number 2019 CU06 conditional use permit. under new public hearings. I must recuse myself since Al Huda Islamic School is a branch of ICH, and as a school administrative assistant and teacher, ICH is my source of income. Therefore, I have been advised by the city attorney that I have a financial conflict of interest on this item. Hence, I will not be participating on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Chris Palmer will present a staff report. Mr. Palmer?
The lovely Maria Maharick will be presenting.
Oh,
Maria Maharick will
I'm
be
sorry.
presenting the staff report.
I get them confused too.
I don't.
Good evening. Good evening, Commissioners. I will be presenting Conditional Use Permit 2018 CU06, which is a request by the Islamic Center of Hawthorne, which I will be referring to as ICH, to approve a second floor addition above the existing ground floor building. The ground floor and the new exterior facade. In addition, ICH is also requesting administrative approval of the exterior building colors. That part of it is not a public hearing item, but will be addressed concurrently as part of this application for your consideration. The property is located at 12209 Hawthorne Way. This is a very small street located just west of Hawthorne Boulevard between Broadway and 120th Street, as you can see from the location there. As you can see from the zoning map, the property is located within the C3 General Commercial Zone. It is surrounded by commercial uses to the north, to the east, and to the south, and residential uses to the west, which is just behind the location. The Hawthorne Municipal Code prohibited religious institutions from establishing within this commercial zone in 2008, but ICH was established prior to this change in the regulations and the uses within this zone, and therefore is classified as a legal non-conforming use and does require a conditional use permit in order to expand. As you can see from the photos, the site is currently developed with a one-story building. And these are just a few photos that were provided by the applicant of what the building currently looks like. So as I mentioned, in order to expand a non-conforming use within this zone, it does require approval of a conditional use permit. The applicant is proposing to expand the use by developing a two-story building for a total net floor area of approximately 12,374 square feet. And details of how each of the areas within the building are going to be used are calculated within your staff reports separately. So the existing one-story building currently contains several classrooms, some storage areas, some offices, some bathrooms. There are two separate prayer areas that total approximately 2,280 square feet. The square footage of the prayer area or the sanctuary area are important to note, since this is the area that the parking calculations are based upon per our municipal code. The other areas, the classrooms, the offices, and none of those are calculated, and the code section is provided within the staff report for you. So as I mentioned, the prayer or sanctuary areas are very important in that the parking is calculated based on the square footage of this assembly area only. The Hawthorne Municipal Code, per the Hawthorne Municipal Code, parking is not calculated for the kitchens, for the hallways, for the bathrooms, for the offices, for the classrooms, the storage areas. The only area that is calculated is the prayer area. The ground floor area, once the building is reconfigured and developed, will contain a 2,600 square foot prayer area, which will be open to the second floor, so you'll be able to see down through it. So the second floor is more of a mezzanine, so it won't cover the entire floor. In addition, the first floor will house some classrooms, some offices, a kitchen, and some storage areas. The second floor is the mezzanine, and we'll have the recreational area, some babysitting rooms and bathrooms, and all these areas are proposed to be used during the times when there's services at the times that I have placed in the staff report. The colored renderings for the new facade of the ICH. I did provide some larger plans, so you can see what a change it will be from the existing building to this much nicer building, with respect, but much nicer building. And so I did provide that so you can see that the colors and the architectural features of it will mimic that of the existing Al Huda school. So the applicant is also requesting approval of the exterior facade colors, as is required by the Hawthorne Municipal Code. The colors of the exterior facade will match Al Huda School, as I mentioned. The base is a gourmet honey color, the trim is a pearl white, and the accents is a porous stone color. And I did provide you with the actual chip colors so you can see precisely what colors will be utilized, rather than a copy, because they don't translate pretty well with the copy. So this is another look at the north and the west elevations. So as I mentioned earlier, in the earlier slide, parking is calculated only for the parking for the prayer and sanctuary areas, and as such, parking is calculated for the 2,600 square foot area, and it is at 1 space per 35 square feet, which translates into about 74 required parking stalls. Although those are the only stalls that are required, and let me show you for a minute here. This is the Islamic Center. This is where some on-site parking will be provided. They will provide 28 stalls with 14 tandem parking. They do have a parking lot, just one lot off of one adjacent to them. As you can see, the one adjacent to them is the Hometown Buffet parking lot, which they do not have access to and they do not utilize. And the ICH parking lot itself offers 26 stalls and 18 tandem. So they'll have a total of 54 stalls and 32 tandem parking spaces, but they are mindful of the impacts that a large congregation can have on the surrounding businesses. And because of that, they have entered into a shared parking agreement and will provide the tandem parking and more off-site parking. Adjacent to them, as you know, the Islamic school is there, and they are providing some parking, which is considered off-site parking, which I will go through in the next slide. So this is an aerial view of the parking that they will be utilizing. In the red are the shared parking locations. The school, there is CWH Hardware and the Super Hayat Market. Not sure if I said that correctly, but the market, thank you. And they are providing regular stalls and tandem parking, especially at the Al Huda school. But the regular parking stalls, they've gone into an agreement with them to utilize the spaces when the businesses are not utilizing them, so on their off hours. In addition, they've entered into a shared parking agreement with Iglesia del Nazareno, which is Church of the Nazarene in English, if I'm correct. So there's about 34 stalls that they will be utilizing on Fridays when their congregation is much larger during those services. And they will be shuttling people back and forth to assist in helping with the parking situation. The yellow locations are the on-site parking locations that I mentioned in an earlier slide. So with all of this parking, including the shared parking, they will be able to provide a total of 200 spaces. They will have monitors available to maintain the parking flow and direct the parking accordingly. They will have attendants available during the 2 Fridays where the congregation is a bit larger during the services. So it's when there's the most attendance. They have been made aware of one of the complaints in the area, and so they will make sure that they have an attendant to make sure that the congregation does not park in the locations that they do not have permission to do so. So that concludes my staff report, and staff is recommending that the Planning Commission adopt Planning Commission Resolution 2018-16, approving a CUP for the expansion of the Islamic Center of Hawthorne, referred to as ICH, and to also approve the proposed exterior facade and the colors. And if you have any questions, I am available. Their architect is here as well. And that concludes my staff report.
Thank you. Does the planning commissioners have any questions for the staff? This again is a time for questions by the staff only.
Would it be possible to put a condition that that they only park in the areas dedicated and that they have agreements for?
Yes, we can place a condition. They do have agreements, written agreements, with each of the 3 sites that I mentioned, CWH, the market, and the church off of El Segundo. So they did enter in an agreement, and I believe, let's see, it's in your staff report, attachment 7.
Okay. And then maybe the condition can read that no parking shall be allowed on other adjacent properties without a written agreement.
Yes, we can place that.
And requiring the attendant to regulate parking.
So one of the conditions does require they have 3 attendants for their busiest
Yes.
event. Well, I don't want to call event services on usually Friday, and the challenge with the agreements is that it's typical in most cities where you have a shared parking agreement that there's a recorded document on the property to ensure that as the property might change hands, that's tied to the title. The way we approached it in this particular instance is we have written agreements and they are signed by the property owners. However, they're not actually part of what we calculated for the required parking. So, theoretically, they're in excess of the required parking. So all of the required parking with the tandem parking that we're allowing them to do is on the 3 properties that they control. So the primary sanctuary property, there's a vacant parking lot that's just on the other side of the hometown buffet parking, which is to the north, and then on the school property to the south. So we didn't want to, in a sense, paint the mosque into a corner with requiring those agreements to be covenants tied to the title, because that would be very challenging and next to impossible, especially as those properties change hand. No property owner is comfortable encumbering their property with something on the title like that. So I think that the condition is appropriate and will give us a little extra muscle, if you will, if we have some enforcement issues or we get complaints from the other properties. But I just wanted to give a little bit of background on how we evolved and how we got here. So we can include that condition, and we can't preclude them from parking on the public right-of-way, but the other properties definitely. And we've communicated that on a regular basis with their representatives at the mosque, and we've gone out there and met with them and observed sort of the ebb and flow of traffic during that time period. So that'll work.
You mentioned the parking calculation was 1 per 35 square feet.
Correct.
That's what type of occupancy? Is it an A occupancy?
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
for that particular section, it's going to be an A occupancy. There's no, there's no tables or any obstructions within that area. And part of the challenge is the parking requirement is, 1 to 35, but the occupancy, allowable occupancy is usually 1 to 7 or 1 to 15.
Yeah.
But we assume and we observe that at least 50% of the attendees, they come in multiple passengers per car, so you sort of have a balance between the occupancy and the car requirement.
And the parking agreement, the shared parking agreements, they were just negotiated or put in place, or have they been for a while?
It is my understanding that they had been utilizing those lots, not the church necessarily, but the market and the hardware store, very, not with an actual document.
Yeah, formal
but
agreement.
but just an informal agreement. And as our director mentioned, that is excess parking, is not required parking, but they are aware that they do have a congregation, and they wanted to make sure that they didn't impact any of the other businesses.
Okay. All right. Okay.
The maximum height for that zoning district?
There is no maximum height imposed, but beyond 4 stories, at the 5th story, they do need a conditional use permit.
And then what's the max height for the proposed structure?
Let me see that. They do have the minarets. Hmm. 45 feet 6 inches at the very tip top of one of the minaret towers. Yeah.
And is that like a decorative piece, or is it like you have access inside that area?
I believe it's just a decorative piece, but we can have the architect expand on that. But it is a decorative piece.
Can you turn on the screen, Maria, to the elevations?
Good evening. My name is Nabil Houri. I'm at 12 Long Street, Irvine, California, 92620. I'm the architect on this project. The minaret, to answer your question, is actually a decorative piece. It's not. It's just to represent the Islamic mosque facade, but it's not really actively. We're not going to put any speakers on it, or it's just a non-functional tower, basically, with a dome.
Great. Don't go anywhere. Go and stay right there for a little bit.
I'm staying.
Excellent.
I just want to add one thing about Miss Maria said it's one-story building, but it's in reality it's 22-foot high warehouse building. We're kind of utilizing the interior space within that building. We're going to go up a little bit, maybe a couple of feet or 3 feet over the existing parapet line around the whole circumference of the building to create the second story within that space. And we're going to add an elevator for handicapped access. We're going to also improve the restrooms upstairs. So we're actually doing a lot of improvements to the existing building beside the exterior facades.
Thank you. Don't go anywhere.
Thank you.
Stay.
Any other questions? Okay, first half. Okay, is the applicant present and would they wish to speak?
I'm actually representing the applicant. If somebody from the community wants to speak, they're here.
Well, we'll hold on and we'll have
Bob, Robert.
opportunity for, there's a lot of people that want to speak on this subject, so.
Sure.
So if you'd like to address the commission, go right ahead.
Well, first of all, hello everyone and good evening. And want to thank all of you, the commissioners and the staff, for a great job you're doing for the city of Hawthorne. Basically, I just want to mention a few things. This Islamic Center of Hawthorne been serving the community from 1993, what is that? My name is Ahmed Azam. I'm the chairman of the board of directors of the Islamic Center of Hawthorne. This center been serving the community from 1993 and 1994. And I think we provide so many services. I just want to share with you, we are not serving a specific community. We serving all the community at large. For example, we have the health fair where we provide services for everybody. We invite the whole community. We have the open mosque day, and many of you probably visited us in the past many years. And also we have the voting station, every year where we provide the location to serve the community, helping the homeless. And recently, just we approved a decision in the board of directors that we're going to have food bank for the city of Hawthorne to be based in the Islamic Center of Hawthorne. At the center, we provide room for the house for the youth. Basically, we have many of the youth coming in, and we keep them, provide some programs for them to keep them away from troubles. Many of them contributing in the many great universities. In fact, in the city of Hawthorne, we have 3 of our members serving, and I'm proud of them. Our respected sister Rola, who's serving in this in the commissioner, brother Malik At-Tawil, who served in the city for a long time. His son Kinan, who's serving as we're speaking right now. Basically, what I would like to say, we're going to add value for the city of Hawthorne, safety and security. We never had any issue from 1993 until today. And I'm proud to say that, with my relation with the police department, very strong relationship as a center. In fact, this is a place where you feel you are safe and secure. We are not providing only for a specific group, as I mentioned earlier. If you walk into the center, you will find all the nationalities, all backgrounds. It's open for everyone, and the door open for everybody in the community. Finally, I just want to say by proving this request, in fact, you will see piece of art in the city of Hawthorne, and you will see very beautiful building where we provide the service. The second floor will be utilized to give more room to the youth, since it's like very tight in the first floor. And also we are very careful with our neighbors. We visited them, and all the time we try our best not to let anyone violate the rules. And if anybody do anything and park illegally, we are asking the owner to call the police and tow the car. So definitely we educate our community. We talk to them all the time, every single Friday. By the way, all the mosques, they have one Friday. In our center, we have 2 in order to spread the time where we didn't have overcrowd, parking lot problems. In the future, if we see more people coming, especially we are close to LAX, we're going to provide the 3rd prayer if needed. So we'll make sure the parking lot will never exceed the needed parking lot by the center. Thank you again, and please, if you have any question, I will be more than happy to answer. And thank you again for the beautiful report. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak on that, address the commission on this issue? Come up to the, if you turned in a speaker card, just get in line.
Greetings. My name is Abdullah Greg Ali. I am the community outreach chairperson for the Islamic Center Hawthorne at 12209 Hawthorne Way. It's my first chance to being in this meeting. Usually I'm at the city council. It's good to meet some new faces, and congratulations on the work that you're doing. It's very interesting to be here to see how you operate, and I plan to sit in again to just to see how everything works in City Hawthorne. I've been involved in City Hawthorne for over 35 years. I coached at Hawthorne High School, presently, and also coach at the Betty Answorth Gymnasium, and I presently do refereeing there for the youth. And we have, through my participation, I've brought many members from our community over to those facilities. So we're part of this community. Just want to share that. Also, I'm in charge of the interfaith dinner that we have, Ramadan. We invite the community, open house. We invite the community to break fast during Ramadan. Also, we have open mosque in October. We also invite the center's always open, but this is a particular day we designate for the general public to come, and we have a program for them and also a dinner. Also, we involved in the different activities that Hawthorne has, which is the Hawthorne Health Fair. We provide a booth there. We also have Good Neighbors Day. We provide a booth there, and Earth Day. So we are very active in the community. We're just not closed, within ourselves. We participate in everything that Hawthorne has to offer, and we just want to continue this service. You mentioned that it's the second floor, but that's kind of wrong. It's mezzanine, which is just an open space. We're not expanding. We're just improving. So just want to make that clear. It's not to add any more people to our community. It's just to give us more room to, especially for the youth. Like when my children was attending there, it was just confined to one little classroom. And can you imagine trying to keep youth, different ages, in one little classroom? And since then, we have brought the next door, which was the what was that? The communication for the police next door, where the school is now.
Center.
Where the school is now.
Yeah, the RCC.
So, yes. So we have that was a relief to take the school out of the center and build the school, and now we have more youth involved in our community, and we would just like to make the place better and presentable for them. So rather them come to us than look for other means to entertain themselves. So thank you again for listening to us, and thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Go right ahead.
Hello, everybody. Thank you all for volunteering your time to come here and listen to us and do the job that you're doing for the city. My name is Abdullah Al-Jamal. I'm currently serving on the board of directors as youth relations, and that's got my primary role for the Islamic Center of Hawthorne. And just to kind of, go along with what's already been mentioned in terms of youth, one of the primary issues and challenges that we face in the Islamic Center of Hawthorne are just lack of space for the youth, especially. And as you saw in the drawings and the outlines, is that there is a primary prayer center, and then there are some storage spaces, kitchen, hallways, et cetera, nothing really specific to youth activities. And so, as you know, with record high percentages of individuals and youth challenges, including drug usage, depression, et cetera, it would be a tragedy for the Islamic Center of Hawthorne to not have the proper space to provide the resources to the youth of the Islamic Center of Hawthorne to safeguard against these challenges that exist in their schools and at home and everywhere else. And the main thing, some of the feedback that I would receive is that a lot of times, for example, when we try to have meetings or plan activities or even have our own private room for even studying or planning activities, what would happen is, because there's so much demand inside the mosque with those that are attending, sometimes the room would be occupied and would not be available for usage. Sometimes it would we would have to maybe even relocate off-site, which would be extremely challenging. And so one of the main objectives of this expansion would be to provide specifically allocated rooms to the youth and provide them that safe and welcoming environment to come and spend their time, if they want to come after school, for after school activities. We used to have a program for tutoring after school, in which we'd have tutors that would work with conjunction with the school. No longer in effect, but I think with the space that'd be a huge encouragement. Furthermore, we have Friday night programs. We have other programs on the weekends for the youth. We have been, for the last, I would say, 10, 15 years, trying to work internally to create a youth room, but because of the lack of space internally, we have not been able to do so. It just has not been possible. And so with this, sorry, I keep pressing on this, but with this renovation, I think it would provide a solid opportunity for that to happen, and it would be a tremendous boost of confidence, a reflection of focus and determination that the youth would see and feel within the Islamic Center of Hawthorne, as well as the Hawthorne City, in having a dedicated space that is safe, that is welcoming, and that is open to them at any time if need be. And thank you all.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kinan Tawil, and I am currently a senior at Loyola Marymount University. I also have the honor of working part-time with Hawthorne's City Attorney's Office. Thank you to the respected members of the Planning Commission for giving me the opportunity to speak to you this evening. I'm also a longtime worshiper at the Islamic Center of Hawthorne. In my childhood, I attended Islamic Center of Hawthorne's weekend school and some of their Quran classes. In my adulthood, I have continued to worship at the center, especially during their Friday prayers. ICH is the place where I learned how to pray and where I began my spiritual development. I have seen firsthand how ICH has positively impacted so many people's lives and nurtured them to grow in their faith. As mentioned earlier, many of the youth from the Islamic Center of Hawthorne have gone on to some of the best universities in California, but also nationally. And just to list a few, that includes UCLA, LMU, UC Berkeley, UC Irvine, Cal State Long Beach, UC San Diego, NYU, UC Davis, and many others as well. ICH is really committed to providing these important pastoral services and to continue to be a contributing member of the Hawthorne community. And being that we are in the city of good neighbors, ICH is one of Hawthorne's oldest neighbors, having opened its doors in 1994. We may all come from different faiths and backgrounds, but we are all united as Americans and as community members of the city of Hawthorne. We all want to see Hawthorne continue to prosper and grow as one of the best cities in California's South Bay. It is with this shared vision in mind that we hope this project will go forward. ICH is an active faith community with a thriving K-8 elementary school that wishes to upgrade its facilities in order to better serve the local community. These upgraded facilities would allow ICH to provide better services, youth development and mentorship programs, as we mentioned earlier, continued pastoral care, service projects, and interfaith dialogues. We strongly believe in giving back and engaging with the community that we belong to and that we love. This improvement plan would give us the means to better achieve those goals. We hope you grant us this amazing opportunity so that we can continue to serve Hawthorne, and I guarantee this will be a positive improvement for the city of Hawthorne. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for coming over here and considering the expansion for the ICH. My name is Mike Mudalal, and I'm the president of the Al Huda Islamic School next door to ICH. The one point I wanted to emphasize is what Miss Maria had said with regards to the parking lot that we have at the school. So on Fridays, the school is dismissed at 12:30 in the afternoon to give the parking lot, or to give access to the parking lot to ICH for the congregation on Friday. So if you grant them that particular expansion, you'd actually doing us a favor, and I'm sure some of my teachers and the principal will be happy, and that would be music to our ears. Thank you again. We appreciate it, and hopefully you can consider that.
Thank you.
My name is Malik Jusri. I first like to thank you guys for letting us come here, make our case to you guys, and yeah, thank you. But what I'd say, I'm a youth leader for the Young Youth Program, which consists of ages 7 to 13, both boys and girls. And I just want to tell you guys how much this thing helps us if we're able to make this improvement to our mosque. You know, every single week we have a Friday program where we get a bunch of kids, we play games with them, we teach them something, we provide a mentorship for all these younger kids, you know. But I'd like to say that a lot of times we're restricted because there's no space for these children, you know, especially days when it's like raining or if it's too cold, there's nowhere else for these kids to go. Also, if we were to have a space for the kids, it'll help the neighbors because, you know, you won't have a night or a day where you just hear a bunch of kids screaming and playing and stuff. So it's good for the neighbors, you know. But I like to say there's a lot of programs that we'd like to do that we're restricted in doing because we don't have a space for them. You know, you can't just do everything outside the whole time. You got the school, you got the prayers, you got everything. So this would be a big, you know, thing for us to do other programs such as programs that we can't do anymore, such winter, summer programs, or camps that we'd like to do in our mosque. And the importance of this is that a lot of our mosque is low-income immigrants, and so a lot of them can't afford these other outside programs that they'd like to take their kids to, and this is a free programs and activities that we do with our mosque, and we love providing these activities, and we'd like to do more, but again, it's the space that's a lot of the issue. I'd like to thank you guys for letting me speak, and thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Hello, my name is Kanis Fatma, and I am a student at Al Huda Islamic School, which is a branch of the Islamic Center of Hawthorne. Even though I've only been in the community for a year, I already feel like they are my second family. I'm here to speak in favor of the expansion of the Islamic Center of Hawthorne. The second floor will serve as a youth center. As tragic as the terror attack in New Zealand was, I feel like the center is the safest place I can be. In the center, we get religious and social support. This space will give us an outlet to vent and cope with the situations around us. It will also give the youth a place to spend their afternoons with constructive activities. Speaking from personal experience, tragedy results in fear and anger. The way I overcame the obstacle, I went to my peers and my friends, trying to seek religious help as well. Also, it has an effect on the Al Huda Islamic School. Many students attend the Islamic Center of Hawthorne. This has increased and has a great effect on how the students perform in school. It has increased the amount of students that have been able to go to the LA County Science Fair. If this plan does go through and you do approve it, it will provide a place where the youth can come and seek knowledge and help. I hope you approve this project, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Yasin Bakri. I'm also a student at Al Huda Islamic School. I've been attending Al Huda for 7 years now, and I've been actively involved with the student council. As my fellow classmate Kenise has stated, we are here to promote the addition of a second level in the Islamic Center of a Hawthorne building. ICH is and was always the place I would go to receive help from tragic incidents that had occurred over the past few years. It is a place where have also been able to provide support for my peers. We have always wanted an area of our own, and the expansion of ICH will really provide us with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Okay. So seeing no one else, Mr. Ramirez, are there any documents to place in administrative record?
There was one email we received from an adjacent property owner related to parking concerns.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that you've already received that in front of you. And this was sent back in October when this item was sort of in the process of being prepared for a public hearing. And this relates to illegal parking, parking on other facilities where, they didn't have express permission. And, since that time, we've worked closely with representatives from the mosque to communicate with the congregation, identify areas where they can park and engage those property owners. And so I think there's been an increased level of communication throughout. So we do take this into account, and I think as a result of this letter initially, that's encouraged us and the mosque to be forward thinking and try to find out, what other opportunities are there for parking facilities in the area, splitting the services, that kind of thing. So, thank you.
Thank you. Do any of my fellow commissioners have any final comments on this item or questions from staff?
My only comment is in the 12 years I've been on and off this commission, this is the most support I've seen for any item coming before us. And often it's a very lonely place on Wednesday nights, the first and third Wednesday, so you're always welcome to come listen and see what we vote on. And I don't want to, it's great. Everything I heard was wonderful. You had me at the pictures and the first speaker. So, good job.
A general comment also, it's from all the support, it's clear, how much the center does for the community at large, and it's a big improvement from what's there now. Just the look of it, it's traditional, which is not normally, my favorite. But I do believe when you do traditional architecture, you want to make sure that you do quality materials so that it does look nice and not, commercial or like a cheap development. So I encourage you to provide quality materials in the building, and you're going to have a really nice building. Yeah, it's overall it's great. I'm also happy that you took the initiative to find alternatives to the parking issue, because I've driven through that street during the day, probably around the same time when prayer is letting out, and so it does get pretty crowded, especially because it's such a small street. So that was my only concern, hearing all the testimony, would be seeing any continuation of the parking issues. So, but I know the city, and I'm sure all of you will do a great job at monitoring that and keeping that under control. So that's it.
Yeah, you guys are doing a great job in the community, and I see that everybody came out and showed their support, and by increasing the space, you guys can reach more members and reach out to more people and benefit more people within the Hawthorne community, and that's a great aspect for your facility, and then just to kind of satisfy the neighbors in their parking issue, it might be a good way to just place a condition saying that that you guys, if you guys are planning to use those spaces, to get in a written agreement for that, That way, you're satisfying the community, and you guys still, have enough parking spaces for the current agreements that you guys do have. And that's all.
Thank you. I've lived in Hawthorne a long, long time. You'd be absolutely shocked if I told you how many years, because sometimes I am. I think this is very good. I've known about the mosque for a long time, since it was started. Didn't know a lot about it, what goes on inside, but I can really relate to the fact you need space. I think your design is going to stand out very, very nice in the city of Hawthorne. And I think you're going to bring in a lot more congregation. The one thing I really would like to ask you to do, one of the problems is parking, okay? And I have a client up in Westchester that I'm their executive director of, and we have a real problem in our parking lots up there. So the easiest way to keep from having a problem is to make friends with the neighbors. And if the gentleman at the T-shirt shop, is concerned, you have to become a friend of him, and encourage your congregation to please don't park there, because I think that would be the only problem. And I think you have sufficient parking elsewhere. And I just think it's going to be very, very big improvement. And I say, I really do. Okay, I will now, we've all talked. I will now formally close the public hearing on this item and call on my fellow commissioners for a vote on the item. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve Resolution 2018-16, CUP 2018-CU06.
Okay, is there a second to the motion?
Are we doing that with the conditions that were discussed?
Right, at the condition that Commissioner Caraveo mentioned to no parking allowed in any adjacent parking unless a written agreement has been obtained prior to the use. Is that correct, Commissioner?
Yeah, that's fine.
I'll second.
Okay. There's been a motion and it's been seconded. Will the secretary please call for the vote?
Sure. Chair Smith?
Yes.
Commissioner Carey?
Yes.
Commissioner Caraveo?
Yes.
And Commissioner Ortiz?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-0.
Congratulations. Good luck.
Yeah. Congratulations and good luck. And I'm sure things will work out well for you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Now I know where you at. I'll be inviting you personally to our dinner.
Take care.
Maddox.
Can I say something quick? Just want to say, first of all, thank you so much for approving the request. But I will assure you, and take my word for it, we'll go to all the neighbors. I will make them very happy. I will make them not only friends,
Just
but
put Malik in charge of it. I know he can handle parking.
And also the agreement with the church for the parking lot is a rent. We are renting from them. It is not the use. So so it's a rent agreement with the parking with the Nazareth Church. So
Sounds great. It's beautiful. Going to be a beautiful building.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
very beautiful. Thank you. Okay, now we will recess the Planning Commission, call back to order the Airport Zoning Commission.
All members present.
Thank you.
Oh, welcome back.
About me.
Yes. No, we didn't forget you. The Airport Zoning Consent Calendar. There are no items.
There are none.
Airport Zoning Commission new continued public hearings.
No items.
We'll call back to order the Planning Commission concurrently with the Airport Zoning Commission. Administrative items. Well, we did the chairperson already.
I goofed that one up.
Accessory dwelling unit presentation.
Public service ethics education completed forms. You finish your ethics training?
Oh, yeah, you're.
Okay.
I did that
a long time ago.
Sorry. I did it online a long time ago, too. I just,
Oh, but I didn't get my, okay.
January 30th, as a matter of fact.
Oh, and
think that's-
also to that end, I'll be sending you the Form 700s for
I
last
filled- yeah.
year.
I filled
If
it
you
and I
haven't-
forgot it.
Yeah, I did that.
Okay.
Yes.
And then Jason, you'll be doing
You can send mine.
initiation one.
I didn't pick mine up yet.
Okay. I'll email it to you.
Okay.
On the ethics, can you let us know if we're current? I don't
Sure.
remember the last time I did it, so it might have been last year.
Do
But
it online.
I have a bad memory, so
Oh, sure. No, we can check.
Okay,
Absolutely. We'll
thank
let
you.
you know at the next meeting.
appreciate it.
Better print out the, no.
Yeah.
Sir, I mean, the certificate is from here or
It was, it's something that you print up after you do.
Yeah, you printed it.
I gave in.
after you
I
do
did
the
that
module.
already. Yeah, okay.
Okay, then
I
you're
did
good.
that. Okay, thank you.
As far as we know.
Okay.
Yes, that's fine. That's perfect.
Through the chair, we had an item that was continued, but it wasn't continued to a date certain, so it wasn't on the agenda. But it was noticed, and we do have someone that wanted to speak on the item. So I would like to give them the opportunity to speak on the item, and I'll take their notes as part of the record for a beer and wine license that is not on your agenda, but it was noticed. So I just want to give them the opportunity to speak.
Okay.
Chris, real quick, wasn't this noticed previously and brought up last year?
No, not this particular item. This was 3670 Imperial Highway, and so a couple months ago it was continued. It was not continued to a date certain, so he noticed it again, and so it was to be continued again.
Something's wrong with the microphones. Okay. So just a little bit of background. This is unusual. This is a request for a master conditional use permit for beer and wine at a commercial center that's under construction. So if you go down Imperial, sort of near where the 105 crosses, there are two large residential buildings being built, and in front of it is a small commercial building, probably 4,000 or 5,000 square feet, and the tenants have yet to be determined or identified. However, there's a request to do, I think it's beer and wine or full alcohol?
Full alcohol.
Full alcohol. So the item was noticed and presented to you, I think, during summer of last year in August. I think it was one of the August meetings. And then it was continued. And we've been working with the police department to identify some of the items that were brought up as a concern related to prostitution and a perception or a feeling of overconcentration of these types of facilities in the area already. And I don't use the word perception or feeling in a negative way. It's just we haven't verified that information. But this was what was expressed at the meeting. So we got a little excited. We noticed the project in anticipation of obtaining that information and having it prepared for you. And that didn't occur in the time frame that we thought, and there was some lines crossed, and so it was advertised. It's not on the agenda, so we will renotice and bring it back to you. However, we do have a member of the public here who wants to speak on it, so we would like to at least get those comments on the record, and then we could put those in the minutes and attach them to the item when it's actually brought forth.
Sure. Okay. Who's going to speak?
My name is Jose Benitez, and thank you for your time. I live on 115th, so it's just right around the corner from where the building is being constructed there. Like the gentleman said, the concern is there's already a high concentration of stores that sell alcohol there. On top of that, just further down the street, there is an AA center, which it's supposed to help alcoholics, better themselves. So by adding a facility with ease to alcohol already in the neighborhood concentrating, you're kind of adding more probability of the crime increasing. On top of that, I've grown up around liquor stores and things like that, and I personally experience that sort of level of crime. actually just a few months ago, the liquor store further down the street on Freeman, happened to walk in there, and then a gentleman walked in there, spray paint the door on the store, and then the guy behind the register took out a gun, pointed at him. So, this kind of adds to that level of crime for that, especially because the buildings that are going to be occupied, from my understanding, are supposed to be low-income residents, I believe. I purchased a home in 2015, so by the time we moved in, it was already in construction, so I wasn't too clear on what the occupancy is going to be there, but in high concentration of people, that kind of situation, I don't think it's best for the community, especially in the neighborhood, to have another store of access to alcohol. And so that's kind of most my concern, and I want to express that to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will renotice. So you got an advertisement.
Yeah, I got a letter. Yeah.
So you'll see another one of those, and you're free to come back. If not, we will have what you said on record, and we'll present it as an attachment to the report at that time.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
And now I'd like to present a brief summary of accessory dwelling units and how we're addressing the state law requirements for that. So accessory dwelling unit means an attached or detached residential dwelling unit or dwelling unit within the living area of an existing residence. So the state law says that we have to permit two types of accessory dwelling units. This was a law that was passed back in 2017. Actually, in September of 2016, the legislature passed two bills, Assembly Bill 299 and Senate Bill 1069, and it required local jurisdictions to update their second unit ordinances to reduce the physical financial barriers in constructing accessory dwelling units. So in that, there's two types of accessory dwelling units. One is an interior conversion. An interior conversion is when you convert existing square footage. Existing square footage can be anywhere. If you have a den, that's existing square footage. You have a rumpus room that's detached. That's considered an interior conversion. Most of what you're going to see in the city of Hawthorne is, if you take a look at the slide, the interior conversion has a garage, but then you submit plans and it becomes its own unit where it has separate access. It has a kitchen, a restroom, and a living room. So for an interior conversion, you're limited to the existing square footage. So a garage is typically 400 square feet. When you convert it, the ADU will be 400 square feet. And so the other accessory dwelling unit is considered to be new, attached, or detached. For the city of Hawthorne, in order to accomplish this, you're limited to 8,000 square feet. So if you have an 8,000 square feet lot in an R1 zone, you can build a detached or attached ADU. So the difference is you can build a brand new unit that has nothing to do with existing square footage. So in the example that you have before you, you see they still have their garage, and just to the rear of their property, they designed another accessory dwelling unit. Now, the size limitations, like I said, for interior is existing square footage of a living space. So that's 500 square feet. I'm sorry, that's 50% of the livable area up to 1,200 or 1,200 square feet, whichever is less. So, but if you have enough size, if you have an 8,000 square foot lot, you can build a 1,200 square foot detached unit. So last year, planning department reviewed about 12 ADUs, and that was last year. In the last 3 months, we've looked at about 12. And so this is one that was a rumpus room. So basically, this room's in this was it just an interior, was open, and it had a bathroom. So it was completely open floor plan with a bathroom. So they had less than 8,000 square feet, so they were only able to convert this, which was existing square feet. So what they did was this: they added a kitchen and a shower to the bathroom and an open floor plan. So they didn't add any additional square footage. All they did was put in a sink, a range, a stove. They have a washer dryer hookups and a shower in the bathroom. And that's about 400 square feet. So as far as parking is concerned, Hawthorne is a hub. Basically, every major street has access from transit. And you don't need high quality transit to qualify. You just need to be within a quarter mile of a bus stop, and you qualify not to be required to have additional parking. So, is a brief report. This is just how we're handling it right now. We have an interim guidance because we have not created an ordinance yet. Right now, our guidance is within state law. We haven't been challenged on it, but we will bring to you an ordinance at some point that's going to reflect the handout that I gave you. So, if you like, I can answer any questions. Thank you.
Is the 8,000 square foot lot minimum set by the state, or is that set by the city?
That's set by the city because the state didn't give us guidance on that. So most of the guidance that we have in place is state law, but where they are silent, we're able to enforce our will pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, at some point we'll bring back a formal ordinance to incorporate it directly into the code. The state only gives certain elements of zoning regulatory power or authority to the cities in regard to these types of uses, and one of them is the lot size. And that was something where, as the policy was being developed, there was actually, a neighborhood by neighborhood evaluation of the city to see what are the lot sizes in the various neighborhoods, where are there opportunities for physically for these to be built if they wanted to do a detached unit, and then also looking at the existing parking and sewer infrastructure to see where there might be limitations related to that, because there's an impact. So over the last 5 years, we've processed probably about 25, and 12 of them last year, and then that doesn't even include the more recent ones for this year. For reference, prior to my show here, I was a consultant, and in Garden Grove, I worked there as a frontline planner for about 6 weeks, and myself alone, I reviewed and processed 27 ADUs, and those were just the ones assigned to me. And there's a team of 5 or 6 planners. In the city of Burbank, they have a consultant firm who only works on accessory dwelling units. And in 2018, I think we met with staff in October, and at that point, they had already received over 200 applications just in 2018. So there's, each city is handling the impact of this state law differently, and it depends on what's happening in the physical development, the characteristics of the development in the city. So I wouldn't say that we're being flooded with accessory dwelling unit applications, but I think there's opportunity as we incorporate this policy into a formal code amendment that we'll be looking at other ways where we can manage as best we can to protect the integrity of the existing neighborhoods that we have throughout the city.
Right, and just for a point of reference, we processed a little over 600 plan checks, and only 12 of those were ADUs.
So, one other question. For interior conversions, then, let's say you have a property that has already 3 units on the property. Can each of those units? Okay.
No, so accessory dwelling units are only permitted where there's a single family home.
Okay.
Thank you for that question.
And I know that Hawthorne has like a lot of access to public transit, but there's still an issue with on-street parking. And I know this would, as far as like the interior conversion, will increase the need for on-street parking. Is there a way to maybe allow for more like incentives to kind of get people to go with the detached instead of the interior, maybe like reduce setbacks or reduce lot coverage, things like that?
The state law trumps that. So if they want to convert their garage, all they have to do is account for parking on site. So if it's a garage to the rear, their parking lot their driveway would be okay to count towards parking. Most garages have a 15 to 18 foot setback, and so if the garage is in the front and they convert it, the driveway again counts towards the setback. The parking requirement.
Okay. Yeah. I'm not saying like to not allow for interior conversions, but to allow more incentives towards detached units instead, like with reduced setbacks, or maybe even the fee might be lower for that instead compared to the interior conversion.
The problem that I see with that is that because you can't deter from doing the interior conversions, you would have the benefit, you would add incentives for the detached conversion, but you really can't do anything about disincentivizing the interior conversion. So you might get even more applications, of the combination of both.
Yeah. I think we could look at that, and as we develop the code amendment, we can investigate if there's other opportunities. The challenge is anything that we do from a regulatory standpoint is going to be overshadowed by just the incredible reduced cost of a conversion. So to build an 800 square foot detached unit, I mean, if we're talking 150 a square foot, it's $120,000. You can convert a garage area for much less, and really the most significant part of converting a garage is addressing the vapor barrier for the new floor, and really everything else is just insulation and drywall, and then your MEPs. So we can look at that. I think that's what we're going to find out is you almost cut the square foot price in half, even though you get a smaller unit. We've had some creative folks look at taking a garage and a bedroom and converting it into a much larger unit, and whereas before it's just one of the bedrooms of a single family home. But we can look at that and see if there's a way, if it's separation requirements between the buildings or setbacks for accessory structures. We can see if there's an opportunity to help move that along, and then that'll be something that'll come up again before you for discussion and review. So it's a good idea.
And also, we're trying to minimize the impact that it'll have on the entire neighborhood. Currently, we only allow detached if you have a large lot. If we were to allow detached on, say, a 5,000 square foot lot, that would cover almost every parcel within the city, and that would be a tremendous impact. Like we said, we already did the sewer study, and basically limiting detached structures to an 8,000 square foot lot is beneficial to the city because of the sewer capacity issue, and because to protect the character of the single family neighborhoods in general.
Okay, one other question. My concern would be for the interior conversions, because they would be so easy, is the quality of these conversions that, could take place. So can the city implement requirements for the quality of conversions for interior?
Yes.
Okay, so that's one thing I would encourage, not only not so much to deter from these conversions, but to ensure that when these conversions are done, that they're done in a quality manner, so that people that do rent these spaces have a quality place to live, and not somebody just putting, closing off the garage door and calling it a conversion and renting it. So it's more for quality of life that I would encourage you guys to look at that.
Right, and to your point, one last thing I'll say is that once you get permitted to do an ADU, you have to submit a covenant, and that covenant is going to tie in the fact that the homeowner will live on the property, either in the existing house or in the converted unit. So that would help, because the owner is on and is required to be on the property.
Time, Chris, the size, minimum size lot that this can be done to?
Right now, an interior conversion can happen on any size lot as long as you have existing square footage. So if you
Exterior.
have, I'm sorry.
An exterior one, though.
Interior. So interior is considered, existing. So
Excuse me, detached.
Detached, minimum 8,000 square feet.
Okay.
And that's to build a new detached. So if you already have a detached garage, you can still convert that. That would be considered an interior conversion.
So with the
Then
interior,
can I build a new garage too?
You could build a new garage. Absolutely. That's called reverse engineering.
I'll rent a room from you. A long drive to Garden Grove.
Fight with my wife about it. She wants a room to herself.
She should.
Doing to her.
Yeah, she should.
the interior conversion, it can happen on any size lot, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So would that still increase the sewer capacity if they're allowed to build on any size lot in interior conversion?
No, so the thing is, we already ran the sewer capacity, so we have the sewer capacity numbers. And so we don't anticipate everyone doing it. But, you know, like R1 zones are intended to have a certain capacity. R3, R4, those are intended to have a higher capacity. So even if you're in an R3 lot and you have a single family home, you could do the ADU. You haven't used all that sewer capacity because in order to get multiple units, you need at least 7,500 square feet in those zones. So there's a lot of opportunity at the same time. It's similar to like a room addition.
But it'll still provide for additional plumbing.
Right.
Yeah. Which would increase the sewer capacity.
Right.
So even the interior conversion would increase the sewer capacity the same as the detached.
Right, and we have those numbers already. And so all I'm saying is to build a detached unit is more enticing for. We have more lots that are 5,000 square feet than we have 8,000 square feet. And so some people came in on a 5,000 square foot lot and they asked to build a detached ADU, and we told them that they could not. But they could convert it. But because of the parking problem, a lot of people shied away because they prefer to keep their on-site parking. So it's just a balance. So I don't have the ultimate answer, but just kind of in talking to people and seeing what's going on, if we were allowed detached in a 5,000 square foot lot, we would have about 1,000, just to be honest.
What if you want to build a new garage, put a room on top of it?
That's not permissible unless you do have an 8,000 square foot lot.
Okay.
And I think one of the things that you'll see is there's some complexity to the state law, and then how we can implement it at the local level and still try to, keep in mind the existing neighborhoods and how those neighborhoods will be impacted. When I became a planner, these were only allowed by conditional use permit. And then the state, updated their code, I think it was in 2004, and then allowed the cities to run through an administrative process, but not necessarily a public hearing process. So then only granny unit, we call them granny units or senior second units, were allowed by CUP, and then the others were allowed by right. And we required covenants tied to the property to ensure that an owner lived there. And where I worked, we also required that those covenants be unsubordinated, which means they would take primary on the title even above the mortgage. So that if there was a bankrupt that occurred to the owners, that covenant would survive the property being going through the bankrupt process. So, but over time, state laws become more and more favorable to this type of land use, and you'll see that, I think, even more over the next couple of years with our new governor and with the continued challenges with housing prices. During the meeting, I've been looking at the draft SCAG profile for 2018 for our city, and the median income, or I'm sorry, the median home price is $660,000, which is higher than the county median by almost, I think, $100,000. So it's really interesting to see how the home prices drive some of these things, and that's all because of our weather, weather, climate, jobs. Because it sure isn't the transportation system that draws people here. So,
although it's forcing us to think more about transportation. So.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So, just a little bit of background, a little bit of context, and some of the challenges and the balancing act that we have to take on a regular basis, and we don't always do it with joy, but we do it.
Okay.
And so because the sewer increase would be the same if you can convert an interior conversion on a lot that's less than 8,000 square feet. And I think we should look into allowing maybe like reduced setbacks for detached, or maybe even eliminating the 8,000 square feet requirement for detached units, because there is a parking issue in the city of Hawthorne. People have to park, down the street to get to their house, like blocks away, at nighttime too. And this is a serious issue for the city, and this is like all throughout Hawthorne.
Yeah. Okay. It really is. Yeah.
Okay.
Commissioner, you're thinking by doing that, you encourage more the detached, but you keep the parking in the garage and you keep the parking in front of the garage, let's say. That would be a benefit too.
Yes.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
okay.
I agree with him.
We'll incorporate that analysis into the future code amendment.
And I have a 6,000 square foot lot. It's 40 by 150. And I only want a 600 square foot room. So, and I don't need sewer to it even. How's that? You can walk in the house and use the bathroom.
You could probably do that now. It's not an accessory dwelling unit, so.
Yeah. Never see this.
Well, thank you guys. It was really helpful because I've heard a lot about these. I've known a lot of people that have done these in the city of LA, and I had heard that it was possible in the city of Hawthorne, but it was still administrative, and so it's good to have clarity to this.
Okay. Is that it?
Yes.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Have commissioner reports. You have anything else to report on?
I do, actually.
Okay.
I just want to say that after the tragic events that happened at Christchurch, New Zealand, I really want to thank the Hawthorne Police Department. We had 2 officers on the second day come. They talked to our students. They made them feel safe. They told them, we are here for you if you need anything. They had a police car that was stationed in front of the school. The day after, we also had another police officer come and talk to the students, and even on the third day. So I think that this shows, I mean, wonderful leadership, that the kids know that, you know, we're all part of one team, and that if they needed something, they were here to help. So thank you.
Exactly.
Support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Gary, nothing? Juan?
No, that's
Okay. Jason? Okay. So there's nothing further from the commissioners, and then these meetings are adjourned at 7:50 p.m.
One of our longer
Thank you.
ones.